Welcome back, Fanfield family, and welcome to the Elder Scrolls Reading Club. Last time, we discussed The Locked Room, a story about a clever student outwitting her cruel lockpicking instructor. Today, we're going to look at the book you chose, The Armorer's Challenge. This is a fun one, guys, so without any further ado, let's get to it. "300 years ago, when Kataraya became Empress, the first and only Dunmer to rule all of Tamriel, she faced opposition from the Imperial Council. Even after she convinced them that she would be the best regent to rule the Empire while her husband Pelagius sought treatment for his madness, there was still conflict. In particular from the Duke of Venghetto, Thane Minglumire, who took a particular delight in exposing all of the Empress's lack of practical knowledge. In this particular instance, Kataraya and the Council were discussing the unrest in Blackmarsh and the massacre of Imperial troops outside the village of Armanius. The sodden swampland and the sweltering climate, particular in summertide, would endanger the troops if they wore their usual armor. "I know a very clever armorer," said Kataraya. "His name is Hazadir, an Argonian who knows the environments our army will be facing. I knew him in Vivec, where he was a slave to the master armorer there before he moved to the Imperial City as a freedman. We should have him design armor and weaponry for the campaign." Minglumire gave a short, barking laugh. "She wants a slave to design the armor and weaponry for our troops. Cyrillus Saucus is the finest armorer in the Imperial City. Everyone knows that." After much debate, it was finally decided to have both armorers contend for the commission. The council also elected two champions of equal power and prowess, Nandor Barade and Raphaelus Yule, to battle using the arms and armaments of the real competitors in the struggle. Whichever champion won, the armorer who supplied him would earn the Imperial Commission. It was decided that Barade would be outfitted by Hazadir and Yule by Saucus. The fight was scheduled to commence in 7 days. Cyrillus Saucus began work immediately. He would have preferred more time, but he recognized the nature of the test. The situation in Armanius was urgent. The Empire had to select their armorer quickly, and once selected, the preferred armorer had to act swiftly and produce the finest armor and weaponry for the Imperial army in Blackmarsh. It wasn't just the best armorer they were looking for, it was the most efficient. Saucus had only begun steaming the half-inch strips of black virgin oak to bend into bands for the flanges of the armor joints when there was a knock at his door. His assistant Fandius ushered in the visitor. It was a tall reptilian of common markings, a dull, green-fringed hood, bright black eyes, and a dull brown cloak. It was Hazadir, Kataraya's preferred armorer. "I wanted to wish you the best of luck on the..." "Is that ebony?" It was indeed. Saucus had bought the finest quality ebony weave available in the Imperial City as soon as he heard of the competition and had begun the process of smelting it. Normally, it was a 6-month procedure refining the ore, but he hoped that a massive convection oven stoked by white flames born of magicka would shorten the operation to 3 days. Saucus proudly pointed out the other advancements in his armory, the acidic lime pools to sharpen the blade of the daikatana to an unimaginable degree of sharpness, the akaviri forge and tongs he would use to fold the ebony back and forth upon itself. Hazadir laughed. "Have you been to my armory? It's 2 tiny smoke-filled rooms. The front is a shop. The back is filled with broken armor, some hammers, and a forge. That's it. That's your competition for the millions of gold pieces in Imperial Commission." "I'm sure the Empress has some reason to trust you to outfit her troops," said Cyrillus Saucus kindly. He had, after all, seen the shop and knew that what Hazadir said was true. It was a pathetic workshop in the slums, fit only for the lowliest of adventurers to get their iron daggers and cuirasses repaired. Saucus had decided to make the best quality regardless of the inferiority of his rival. It was his way and how he became the best armorer in the Imperial City. Out of kindness, and more than a bit of pride, Saucus showed Hazadir how, by contrast, things should be done in a real professional armory. The Argonian acted as an apprentice to Saucus, helping him refine the ebony ore and to pound it and fold it when it cooled. Over the next several days, they worked together to create a beautiful daikatana with an edge honed sharp enough to trim a mosquito's eyebrows, enchanted with flames along the length by one of the Imperial battle mages, as well as a suit of armor of bound wood, leather, silver, and ebony to resist the winds of oblivion. On the day of the battle, Saucus, Hazadir, and Fandius finished polishing the armor and brought in Raphaelus Yule for the fitting. Hazadir left only then, realizing that Nandor Barade would be at his shop shortly to be outfitted. The two warriors met before the Empress and Imperial Council in the arena, which had been flooded slightly to simulate the swampy conditions of Blackmarsh. From the moment Saucus saw Yule in his suit of heavy ebony and blazing daikatana and Barade in his collection of dusty, rusted lizard scales and spear from Hazadir's shop, he knew who would win. And he was right. The first blow from the daikatana lodged in Barade's soft shield as there was no metal trim to deflect it. Before Yule could pull his sword back, Barade let go of the now flaming shield, still stuck on the sword, and poked at the joints of Yule's ebony armor with his spear. Yule finally retrieved his sword from the ruined shield and slashed at Barade, but his light armor was scaled and angled, and the attacks rolled off into the water, extinguishing the daikatana's flames. When Barade struck at Yule's feet, he fell into the churned mud and was unable to move. The Empress, out of mercy, called a victor. Hazdir received the commission, and thanks to his knowledge of Argonian battle tactics and weaponry and how best to combat them, he designed implements of war that brought down the insurrection in Armanius. Kataraya won the respect of council, and even, grudgingly, that of Thane Minglumire. Cyrillus Sacus went to Morrowind to learn what Hazdir learned there, and was never heard from again. Before we get into the discussion proper, I just want to cover a few key terms for those of you that don't know anything about the Elder Scrolls. Black Marsh is the homeland of the Argonians, a race of lizard folk. Hazdir is an Argonian. Ebony in the Elder Scrolls has nothing to do with trees or wood, but is, instead, a rare and valuable material found primarily on Vardenfell, a large island in the province of Morrowind. It bears some similarities to real-world obsidian, as it's a black, glass-like substance formed from lava flows from Vardenfell's volcano, Red Mountain. Unlike real-world obsidian, however, ebony is incredibly durable, and many believe it's the crystallized blood of a god, giving it the nickname of God's Blood. Daikatana is the Elder Scrolls term for a Nodachi, basically a super long katana designed to be wielded in two hands. Akavir is a continent far to the east of Tamriel, which is where the games take place. So what did we learn here? Let's break it down. I think the biggest takeaway here is that no matter how vast your resources are, if you don't understand your enemy, understand the battlefield, you'll lose. We saw this in the real world as well, the Vietnam War from 1955 to 1975. The US was certainly better equipped, but the Viet Cong had a far better understanding of the environment, the weather, the conditions, and the land. This let them dig in
like an Alabama tick.
Sun Tzu, in his famous treatise The Art of War, said, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." This is exactly what we see in the Armorer's Challenge. Hazdir takes the time to visit his competition, Cyrillus Sacus. He gets to know the man, learns what he's up against. Hazdir knows himself. He knows that he's operating with limited resources, but that he has the distinct advantage of environmental knowledge. He then meets Cyrillus so that he can know his enemy. A minor lesson, but one no less important, is to be gracious in both victory and defeat. Cyrillus knew from the moment he saw the armor Hazdir had crafted that he had lost the bid for the commission. He wasn't blinded by pride, and when the duel was over, he didn't try to talk his way out of it or blame the chosen champions fighting as the reason why his armor failed. Instead, he graciously accepted his defeat and headed for Morrowind to study where Hazdir had studied. Cyrillus can actually be found in the game. He's an Ebonheart working as an armorer for the Imperial Legion, and it's only due to a programming oversight that he's not the master trainer for the Armorer's skill. The book says that he set out for Vivec, which is adjacent to Ebonheart. Interestingly, Ebonheart is also home to the Argonian mission, essentially the Argonian embassy in Morrowind. I suspect that Cyrillus sought to work in Ebonheart so that he was only a short walk away from consulting with Argonians on his work. He clearly has a great deal of respect for them. So that's the Armorer's Challenge. What do you think of this story? Have you ever found it yourself? What do you think about the takeaway? Was there something I missed? If you want to read the Armorer's Challenge for yourself, there are a few locations where you can find it. The Armorer Hodlesmod in Caldera has a copy in his shop. You can find a copy deep in the Forgotten Vaults of Anudnabia, Forge of Hilbundgard, and there's one in the Daedric Shrine of Remamilk. As a skill book, it will boost your Armorer skill by 1 the first time you read it. If you want to meet Cyrillus Sacus himself, he's in Ebonheart's Hawkmoth Legion garrison, and you can buy a unique Armorer's hammer from him, Cyrillus Sacus's hammer, which is classified as Secret Master in quality.
I'd be happy to talk. My pleasure, really.
Next time, we'll look at the cake and the diamond, the option you didn't choose on the last poll. There's a poll up right now to determine what we'll cover after that, so go vote and let your voice be heard. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really does help. There's a new video every single Friday and an episode of the Elder Scrolls Reading Club most Tuesdays. There are also bonus videos, posts, polls, and more. If you missed the last episode of the Elder Scrolls Reading Club covering the Locked Room, click here. Or click here to watch a video covering every single Clone Wars era CIS droid. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.